Hello everyone, my name is Seiji and welcome to Otaku Field Notes. So this is a podcast I created because I like to watch a lot of anime, I like to read a lot of manga, but for the longest time I was just clueless as to in which way I should create content around it for YouTube, just because there are a lot of things that I really enjoy and that I would like to talk about, but didn't really necessarily feel like they warranted me making a video about them. So I figured, why not just create a podcast where I can talk for about 1 hour, 1.5 hours, and just pour my heart out, talk about the things that I enjoyed, that I loved, and also about the stuff that I didn't like all that much. But yes, that's what this podcast is essentially about. So I wanted to start off first with some manga, and the first one that I want to tell you about is Dai Daku, and this is volume 1 and this is volume 2, and they were created by, or the series is created by Kyu Hayashida, who you may know from Dorohedoro. I watched the anime a couple of weeks ago on Netflix and it was so good. It's just amazing, like the magic system, the dark fantasy, etc, etc. So if you like Dorohedoro, I would definitely recommend giving this one a go. Also, the English translation of volume 1 is coming out in April, so in just a couple of months. Nevertheless, yes, Dai Daku, what is this all about? So it's kind of like a space opera / dark fantasy. It centers around this young boy called Zaha Sanko, and when he was very, very young, his bones were cursed by a sorcerer, and this curse essentially is that anyone who manages to get a hold of Zaha's bones will be able to have any wish they'd like granted. And so essentially you have the entire universe after Zaha trying to skin him and get his bones so that they can rule the universe or have all the money that they would like. So yeah, we follow along as Zaha and his allies, his friends, try and find this sorcerer and I guess kill him so that the curse gets broken. So yeah, it's just a very cool and unique concept in my opinion. I really like a series as well that have a unique art style, like for instance Jojo's Bizarre Adventure. I know a lot of people think it's really ugly, and yeah, I mean, fair enough, but I mean, I really appreciate it when you can look at a manga and instantly recognize the author, the creator, the mangaka. So I'm not too sure if you can see it here all that well, but this is kind of like how it looks. Yeah, I just like how dark the series is. Like I said, how unique. The magic system as well is really cool. You have this place called, I believe, the Dark, where you have to enter a sort of wormhole to get there, and you can buy products such as I don't know, like an armor of darkness, bones of darkness, and they all have their own type of power, magic. Yeah, it's just really cool, and I would definitely recommend giving this one a go. Again, especially if you like Kyu Hayashida's work, Dorohedoro, give it a go. I do have to say though that don't get too attached to it, because Hayashida, compared to a lot of mangakas, her work comes out on a slower basis. So this series has been going on for almost 2 years now, and it seems like it's going to be 1 volume a year. Also, Dorohedoro took quite some time. I think it ended back in 2019, and Hayashida started it in the 1990s. So yeah, nothing wrong with that, of course, but just so you know that once you kind of go on a binge, it's going to take quite a long time before like new chapters start to roll in. Also, I do have to say, this is like the coolest manga that I own in terms of design. So I'll just show you only the first volume. So the cover, I don't know what it's called in English, house. So it's transparent, and this is kind of like the armor that Zaha wears, and this is Zaha himself. So yeah, I just thought this was really cool. Also, you have some colored pages which are really pretty as well. Yup. So yeah, you have, I mean, look at all these cool characters. I mean, this is just like a freaking skeleton that also doubles for a backpack. But yeah, if you want to know more about it, I would say give this series a go. Now, moving on to a manga that I read actually a couple of days ago. It's called A White Rose in Bloom. I read the first volume, and this was actually an arc that Macmillan gave to me. It's coming out on the 5th of January, and it was created by Asumiko Nakamura, and you may know her from a previous work called Utsubora, the story of a novelist. I haven't read that one myself, but I've seen it floating around on YouTube, and it looks really cool. Chotto mate. Okay, yes. Just had to check if my recording was like still going on. But yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, the story of a novelist. I heard lots of good things about that one. Anyway, A White Rose in Bloom is a shoujo ai story about two girls who go to this all-girls boarding school somewhere in Europe, and they end up being the only two girls stuck there for the Christmas holiday, and they kind of like get sort of close and like a bit of romance going on, and so the story follows them, like their daily life at that boarding school, and them kind of like, it's not necessarily like getting together. Of course you want these people to get together, but you have one girl who is kind of cold and distant, and everyone thinks she's cool, she's an upperclassman, etc. And the other girl is very naive, always thinks the best of people, etc. And they kind of like have their trials and errors. Is that how you say it? Anyway, it's just really, I really enjoyed it. It made me very giddy. You have like gossips and crushes, people getting jealous, etc. And it really just reminded me of like the classic shoujos from the 60s and 70s, like Moto Hagyo's the Po clan, for instance, which is also like a boarding school, but then all boys, and there's romance and jealousy and stuff like that. Yeah, like also there's some wispiness to the style as well, and it is very reminiscent to that classic era of shoujo manga. If you like that type of thing, it does carry some amount of nostalgia with it as well. So I would say keep an eye out on it. Definitely, it's kind of hard these days to find like translated shoujo out there, like really good ones that I enjoy. So very happy to have read this one. Now, moving on to a series that I've been wanting to talk about for the longest time, also because I think it's going to be incredibly big in the West soon, because it's been blowing up in Japan the past couple of months, and it's called Sousou no Frieren. I think it's kind of like Frieren's funeral procession, something like that. I'm excited to see what the English translation eventually will be when this gets translated to English, because it is really that big, and I'm definitely expecting there to be an anime of this one in maybe a year or two. So this is definitely a series to look out for. Yeah. This is the first volume. The second volume came out a couple of weeks ago. So this is a fantasy series, and you have these 4 people here. I can't really see them too well. You have an elf, Frieren, and then 3 other guys. One is, I believe, like a dwarf, and the other 2 are just regular human beings. And they go on an adventure for a good decade. And they manage to come back as heroes because they defeated the demons or something. But I'm being a bit vague about it because that's really not what the story is about. The story is about what happens after the happily ever after the demons and all the evil has been destroyed. What happens afterwards? And so that's where the story essentially starts. It starts the moment that the heroes are going back to the king and just, I guess, getting their spoils for going on this adventure. So The real interesting part about this series is that Frieren, the girl, she is an elf, and so she has a considerably longer lifespan than all of her other comrades. And so you kind of like follow Frieren as she just continues on with her life, sometimes checks on her old traveling mates and see how they slowly start to get older and eventually one by one so slowly start to die. And you see kind of like how she tries to process that, because in terms of an elf's life, 10 years really isn't all that much. Just a small decade when they can live for like thousands of years. But you see how the memories that they created on that trip affects Frieren's life. And so you follow along and see how their memories still carry on because of her. And like if I had to give you any advice with regards to this series, do not listen to emotional music when reading this, because your eyes will start to leak, guaranteed. Oh my gosh. It's this, like, this manga deals with mortality and the fact that life is finite in such a good and interesting way. I've seen this done in 2 other manga series that I've read, namely the Po Clan, which I mentioned earlier, and also Happiness by Shuzo Oshimi. The difference mainly is that it's done through the vehicle of a vampire who is immortal, and this time it's an elf. Another big difference is also that with this story you focus more on the impact that these people have had on Frieren and how memories live on, and it deals with mortality and legacy in such a very I don't know how to I forgot the word for it, but in such an affecting way, in which a lot of people were like, after chapter 1 or 2, I was already crying, and I'm like, yes, it's so visceral, if that's kind of like the word. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil it, because I believe the best way to really read this is just read it by yourself. Just go in it with like a blank mind, and it's a ride. And I can't wait for this to get an adaptation. I'm so certain that there will be an adaptation, and I can't wait for more people to discover this manga, so that there can be more of a conversation around it. Yeah, so those were the manga that I mainly wanted to talk about. So moving on, anime 2020 fall season. So this is actually the first season that I started watching like shows that were airing. Usually I'm someone who likes to binge everything in a couple of days. So the experience in and of itself was very interesting. I'm not too sure if this is really my jam, but nevertheless, it was nice. I have actually one real life friend who watches anime as well, and it's been really great being able to call him like once or twice a week, and we'll just chat about all the series that we both have been watching. It's mainly been Attack on Titan, Golden Kamuy, and Jujutsu Kaisen that we've both been watching. I'm trying to get him to watch Akudama Drive. Ua, if you're watching this, read. Oh no, not read. Watch Akudama Drive. I've been telling you this for 3 weeks. Kaikut. Anyway, I wanted to start off with Attack on Titan. As of now, there are 2 episodes that are out, but I have only watched that one twice in Japanese with Japanese subtitles. So I don't really know what much was going on. Also, there was not really a lot of like action. So I'm waiting for episode 3 to come out, and so that I can like watch them both with subtitles. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about episode 1 of the final season. Wow, it has been a journey. First, I just want to say, yeah, it's been such a journey. I started watching Attack on Titan back in 2014, and it feels kind of surreal knowing that this is the final season. Some of us have been waiting for years. Others have been lucky and have been able to like binge it in like if you started watching Attack on Titan last year, like wow, that must have been like really great, and just having like the 4th and final season come right now, so I'm happy for you. Anyway, I don't really want to talk too much about the first half of the episode, because to be honest, I didn't really think that was all that interesting. Well, it was interesting, but the thing is that there's a time skip of like 4 years, and it was just very confusing that it started from that point. Though I do want to say this, however, Attack on Titan is so clever in the way it has evolved from this very black and white thing, from we are humans, we are the last remaining piece of humanity, civilization, and we have these monsters, these titans who are trying to destroy us, and so we have to destroy the titans. And that then changed into, oh, these titans that were attacking us are actually like human beings, like, you know, like the intelligent ones. Turns out all the titans were humans, and turns out there's like other people out there that like civilization outside of the walls, and it just turned into something so much bigger, from a horror anime essentially to something with so much political intrigue, so much mystery, just such a rich storyline. And one thing that came to my mind when watching episode 1 of this season was like, you could have easily started from the other perspective. You could have essentially, hypothetically, could have started at Marley, and you'd have Gabby and all those people like fighting all these people, etc., etc. And you could have sided with like the Aldeans. Yes, the Aldeans, like Gabby and all those people. And you could have seen it from her perspective. She could have been like the series Eren, just because it's not black and white. There's so much ambiguity, and it's come to the point that it feels like there's almost no like right or wrong. At least that's kind of like how I'm feeling. And I think as the series will progress, the lines will start to blur more and more and more. Regardless, so that's kind of like what I wanted to say. I just wanted to talk about the brilliance of this anime. It's just so good. Then moving on to my favorite part of this episode, and that was the moment when Reiner and Zeke come in. First of all, Reiner looks really fine. He looks good. He looks hot. There, I said it. Reiner looks hot. I never felt that he was attractive in all the 6 years that I've seen him, but gosh darn it, he looks really good. And I just really like the character designs, and I think that Mappa definitely did a good job on that part. Zeke looks so much better than season 3 as well. And I just want to go through the last part of the episode and just the things that I really wanted to talk about. So I just have to say, I thought it was really horrifying seeing all these Eldians like in those parachute things, having been injected with Zeke's spinal fluid, and they already kind of like had those facial expressions. You know, this one dude that was like, and the other guy that was like, and it's just so creepy. The facial expressions freak me the heck out. Then you have Zeke walking up to like the end of the airplane, and then this Chad just goes, "Oh, I don't know, for some reason I just thought that was just absolutely hilarious. He's just like, okay, I'm just gonna turn all these people into titans. Oh. And then, okay, moving on. Like, sometimes it's so easy to forget about the cruelty and like the horror with regards to this series, because at its core it truly is a horror story. And I liked how they did this scene because of course you have the facial expressions of these people, but the moment when Zeke starts to like does his roar, like his and they turn into titans with this like huge explosion, it cuts to the warriors and they look at their own people getting sacrificed in the most horrific way. And I think it was like the older warrior who had like tears in his eyes, and that's kind of like for me the moment where I remember, like, yes, they are watching like their neighbors, their family members, their uncles or whatever getting sacrificed for this war, and it's just so horrifying to realize that, if that makes any sense. So yeah, I just think that this story also kind of like does really like such a good job of reminding us how horrific this truly is. Moving on, Reiner's scene. It was Reiner's time to shine. He's like on his parachute, chilling, looking at all of like the stuff happening on the ground, and I just have to say the soundtrack is fire. I can't wait for this soundtrack to drop. I've been listening to like every single one, season 1, 2, and 3, all of the CDs that have come out from the Attack on Titan soundtrack OST are so good. They have like, I just like the composer so much, and I'm pretty sure it's the same one for this season. But yeah, for me that was like one of the coolest scenes, where you have Reiner talking about another dawn war, and he was like, Kabe wa mo unsai desu, and then you have the music, dun 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 dun. Oh my gosh, I just thought that was just so awesome. That soundtrack is absolute fire, and he turns into like a warrior, and he goes into warrior mode, and he starts just like annihilating people. Like, you don't realize that sometimes, but literally Reiner's walking and he has his hand on the wall and he's just going shh. I'm making so much sound effects, sorry, but he's just going shh, and like all these people are just dying. They're dying. And nevertheless, it's horrifying. And then at one point he gets into the position that these warriors, or no, not the warriors, those the enemies like standing by his neck, and they're like fire, and he's like, oh damn. And then you have Galliard, Galliardo, and he just like smashes them, and I just loved the slow-mo effect of that he's like looking at these people that he just smashed, and then he's like giving Reiner that side eye, and Reiner's like, "Wa, gariardo." I don't know, I just thought that was like really cool. So yeah, bunch of cool action scenes. I really enjoyed that, all of that. I think I heard some people saying that the CGI stuff wasn't that good, but I don't know. I'm very easy to please in those terms. Like, I know like Berserk and stuff like that was trash, but I mean, like, this, for me, I thought this was personally very good, and it mixed quite well with the rest of the episode. So I had no problems with that. Yeah, so the last thing I want to talk about is, the last part where Zeke turns into the Beast Titan. He is such a Chad. Like, the moment like he turns into the Beast Titan and he's walking and he's just like I don't know, like a freaking gangster. He's walking like that. It just makes me laugh for some reason. But yeah, he takes those missiles and he throws them at the enemy. But then he, for some reason, doesn't calculate that the enemy might fire at him. And so he's like, and I'm like, bruh, aren't you a warrior? You should know this, but regardless, let's skip over that. We see Reiner going in front of him and taking like all of the missiles and stuff like that. Oh, this is like another part of the episode that really got to me. So you have, of course, the narrator talking about what is happening, how they, as like one of the powerful people on Earth, are losing their power, seeing how people are developing anti-Titan weapons. And so you have this scene where you have Zeke looking back and looking at Reiner's Titan absolutely demolished, and I don't know, the Beast Titan's face looked like so sad and defeated despite them having won the war. And then damn, you had that ending song hit in, they're like Ichipyo mai no matataki. I can't sing, but like that song is so like, I feel like every episode that's gonna be really emotional, when that soundtrack hits at the right moment, it's gonna hit different. Like, also kind of like that small melody. I can't play the glockenspiel for anything, but I think it goes like, what does it go like? It's like, oh wait, no. It's kind of like that melody. Oh, oops. When you have Gabby and I think Colt, the young boy, kind of like looking at the devastation and how bad things became, and their like horrified faces with the soundtrack. I'm just gonna say it. I almost can't watch Attack on Titan without crying. I actually rewatched season 1 all the way through 3 the past couple of weeks. I think I watched them twice, just because I was like studying Japanese and just needed something to listen to, and it's hard getting through it without crying. But that's like another conversation for another time. Okay, I just want to quickly go through the rest of anime 2024. So I thought this fall season was going to start off strong with Burn the Witch from the same creator as Bleach. I read the one shot. It seemed really cool, had a lot of potential, so I was very excited to see it get adapted. And then I watched it and it contained nothing from the one shot, and I was like, why did you guys skip over that? Because it was just, the one shot was really cool. It was like such a great introduction to the characters, to the world, and had a nice story in them. And so I felt a bit disappointed watching the movie, I guess. I do have to say that it did have nice visuals, but like now it's been like maybe 2 months, 3 months almost since it came out, and I can 2 months, yeah, and I can barely like remember like what it was all about. I really liked the color scheme, like the blue and the green and the black and red capes. It looks really nice, but just the content, I was a bit disappointed. I do honestly think that if they had used the source material, like the one shot in the movie, that it would have definitely been a bit better. I think also the people who had read it in Shonen Jump would have liked it more as well. At least that's what I hear. Then I just quickly wanted to talk about Golden Kamuy. The only reason that I actually started watching this show is because I thought that this was going to be the first season, not knowing that it was the third season. So yeah, I was like, oh, okay, because I saw the trailer of the third season and I was slightly confused. But nevertheless, okay, I was like, okay, I'm gonna give it a try. And then I opened up Crunchyroll and it had like episode 24. I was like, wait, isn't this a new anime? Nevertheless, I started with episode 1 and boy, oh boy, this is everything that I wanted. Oh my gosh, let me put this glockenspiel down. This was honestly everything that I wanted. So it starts off with one of the main characters, Sugimoto, and he is fighting at the time in the Russo-Japanese War, which is like 1904, around that, 1905, early 20th century. And this dude, oh my gosh, he's like running over the battlefield. Everyone is like falling down and he gets shot in the freaking neck, like here. And he's like, and then his eyes, like his pupils start dilating or like narrowing, whatever. And he's like, and goes beast mode. He just runs into the trench with all the Russians. The first thing he does, he takes his bayonet and he's just like, and he puts it through someone's neck and he starts like rah everyone, and he's like beating everyone up and he's like shinen, like taking people's eyes out. And I was just like, whoa, this is freaking awesome. And was so great. After that, we start to learn more about the story. It's set in Hokkaido, which is the northern part of Japan, which is a place that not a lot of anime or manga is set. You know, usually it's like Tokyo, or if you're lucky, Kyoto, stuff like that, places like that. And it's just really great to learn so much like history of Japan through this anime and through the manga. I don't know if you can see it here, but I've read essentially everything of the manga now, and it's so good. It's such a solid story. I learned so much about the Ainu, about the Russo-Japanese War, even about the Sino-Japanese War before that as well, just because I got that baseline of history and could go off of that, because I really enjoy history, so looking up all that stuff is always very interesting to me. And yeah, it's just a really great show. It has food, like information about food. So much research has gone into this series. Like they have people like consultants for this series to get things right, because of course you're talking about the Ainu, which is like an indigenous group in the northern part of Japan, and lots of culture has been lost through, would you call it gentrification, like Japan trying to make them take them into the Japanese system and them kind of like losing their history. I don't know what I was saying, but you learn so much about the Ainu, their way of life. To me, it's just so beautiful seeing like a population, a ethnic group that has such strong ties to nature and values it so much, and has so much respect for everything that they have and how they try and give back, etc., etc. It's just been a great ride, and just the whole concept of Golden Kamuy, that it's about the history, that it's a cooking show as well, that it has great humor, that it has interesting characters that have so much development and that are so strongly built. it's so awesome, and it has some fan service as well. Yes. I was talking about this with Aisha on her live stream, and we were talking about like really good shows that we enjoy, and I was like, because of Golden Kamuy, I've never felt so seen with regards to fan service. It's great, and it does it in like a fun and cheeky way, and it's not very disruptive or anything. It really plays into the humor of the show as well. So the thing that I've actually been wondering with regards to Golden Kamuy is why it's not as popular in the West as it is in Japan. And definitely I can see things why people might not be necessarily interested in it, especially if you're watching it on a weekly basis, which I've been having to do now, because the story is very slow paced, and that's something you can't change when you're watching anime. With reading, you can just read faster, you can decide your own pace, but with anime, it's really hard. You can't pace it, essentially. And the anime is quite slow paced, and that also with having taken out so much information, like leaving so much stuff behind from the manga as well. But yeah, I think like one of the main reasons might be because it's a thoroughly Japanese show. I mean, in the sense that it's easier to watch something like a fantasy series or something that is set in daily Tokyo life, I don't know, like in the 2000s, etc. But when you don't know anything about the Russo-Japanese War, if you don't know anything about the relationships that Russia had with Japan, and of all these things with regards to Japanese history, it's definitely a part of Japanese history that we in the West don't really know about all that much. And the anime doesn't like spoon feed you like, oh, this is what happened, then this is what happened, then this is what happened, because of course it's an anime. Its main demographic is Japan, and so it's going to assume that you know what the Russo-Japanese War is and what happened during the Meiji era, the Meiji Restoration, and the shogunate, the people that came before the Meiji era, and all those type of like a lot of like cultural things that if you're Japanese, you'll know about, but if you're not, you're going to have to do research with it, or just accept that you're not going to understand everything about the show. But yeah, I think that's maybe why it's not as popular as it is in Japan. That's just my theory, but I'd be happy to hear if anyone else has any other theories. Then, moving on to Jujutsu Kaisen. This is essentially the series which everyone is talking about. I'll be really honest, I've never really seen myself as like a genre person. Like, I only watch shonen, I only watch shoujo and stuff like that. Looking like back on my anime manga history, I have seen that I've never really been a huge fan of like the major shonen anime. I haven't watched Demon Slayer yet. One Piece is a series that I'm not really interested in. I've never watched Naruto. Dragon Ball Z I watched growing up, but it's not necessarily like I have a huge interest in that at the moment. And just kind of like, or Hunter x Hunter, those type of like major shonen stuff I've never really seen. I've only watched Bleach, and that was like 6 years ago. I can barely remember what that was all about. I wouldn't say that Jujutsu, like shonen, like major shonen stuff doesn't necessarily appeal to me. But yeah, I don't know what I'm saying. Nevertheless, Jujutsu Kaisen, everyone's been talking about it. I think it is a solid show. I've talked about this before, but I think I picked up the manga about a year ago 1.5 years ago, something like that. And I was feeling a bit hot and cold towards it, not too sure what to think about it. Then the announcement that the anime was coming out came out, and I got a bit more interested in it, and then I started seeing how slowly more and more people were getting really, really into it, and I kind of like rode that wave, and so I watched the first couple of episodes, and I think they're actually really solid. I have enjoyed them a lot. I like kind of like the funny bits as well. The characters are really interesting. Also, what's his name again? Jojo. He's really handsome. Oh my gosh, the moment that he took off like his blindfold and his eyes, I'm finished. I'm done. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. He's really handsome. I like him. He's, I think, one of my favorite characters, to be very honest. But yeah, as I was saying, I'm someone who actually really enjoys reading the manga beforehand and then watching the anime. And I actually got the Jujutsu Volume 0 from Viz Media. They sent me an arc some time ago, and I actually really liked the Volume 0, which is actually the original one shot that started Jujutsu Kaisen, and it's set like a year before the events of the main series. It focuses on this one guy who has this like S-class curse, and it's about his story, and I don't want to spoil it because the anime, the manga hasn't been published yet. I think it's coming out in a couple of weeks. Nevertheless, I really enjoyed it, and I think this was like, seeing that this was kind of like where the idea came from. I've just got so much more appreciation for the series. I don't know why, but I really felt that was such like a solid one shot, and I think it's really going to push me to read the rest of the series. I have the first 5 volumes in English and volume 6 till 12 in Japanese, so I'm actually looking to read those rather soon. Also, Viz Media, I have a subscription there, so when there are times that I don't understand the Japanese parts, I can also just like take a quick look at the Viz Media app, which is really nice. Would also recommend that. I'm not sponsored by them. I don't have any sponsors, but it's like $2 a month, and you can read like 100 manga chapters a day, which is a lot, so you really get your money's worth. Would recommend. Though I do have to say, you have to be in America to be able to access that, but I use a VPN, so it's not really an issue. Then moving on, this is actually my favorite anime of this fall season. It's Akudama Drive, and it's this anime original series. Essentially, you have Kanto, the region in which Tokyo resides, and you have Kansai, so where Kyoto is, and this is a cyberpunk series that is set in the future. Kanto basically annihilated Kansai and then built it up again, and so Kansai was really thankful for Kanto to have like rebuilt their region again, and so they have become like a satellite city, like a subordinate city to Kanto. They serve Kanto, and so that's kind of like the setting of the place. Now you follow these people called Akudamas, who are essentially criminals, and they have been given a task to complete like a heist and steal like this cargo from the high speed train, the Shinkansen, that goes from Kansai to Kanto all the time. And so it's a heist adventure anime cyberpunk thing, and it's honestly such a good show. I love everything about it. I love the setting. I love the lighting. Just kind of like the lights of all the cyberpunk-esque things. And the music is fire. The opening song is really good. I don't give a damn. Okay, I should not be singing, but I don't give a damn. Rah! And they're like, this is so... It's so good. I'm like head banging my head every single time it comes up, and then the ending song is like really smooth and just relaxing. It's like sore sore no basho, sore sore na na na. Okay, I don't know the lyrics, but it's so good. And just also like the series in the sense of like how unique it is, should I say? I think it's pretty unique. For instance, even the way they make scene transitions, sometimes you'll have like a scene and then you'll have the next scene and it will be cut into smaller pieces. And I hope I'm explaining this correctly. You'll have these pieces come together. So it's like you'll have, I don't know, the sky, and you'll just hear this sound effect like doosh. And the sky comes in, and then some buildings, doosh, come in, and then you have the people walking on the street, doosh, so it's doosh, 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 and then you have the next scene, and it's so unique. You should watch it, and like then you'll understand what I mean. But it's so cool. It's so great. And what else? Oh, also the introduction of the main characters is done in such a bad ass way. You have characters who are like out of this world. You have this guy named Brawler who is like just an absolute Chad and uses muscles, no brain. You have the courier, I don't know what the Japanese word is, but he has his bike and he's like really like moody, and he uses his gun a lot, pew pew pew. And then also you have this doctor who is out of this world, and just like she doesn't care about human life. She can just like kill anyone like with her scalpel, like the surgical thing. She just shoots them out. Like this dude was like, could you? And then she just like just threw her scalpel through his head. And she's like, shut up. Anyway, you have also this other guy whose name is Satsujinki, so cutthroat, and he just beheads people. He loves seeing blood, red things. He loves the red stuff. Aka. Yeah, it's a really great story. I'm being a bit vague because I don't really want to spoil it now. I would like to talk about it in the next episode, because next week Thursday the final episode is coming out and I have a lot of things to say. So if you don't know about this series now, I would definitely recommend giving this a shot. Also, I do have to say, the hottest character that is there is the courier, the guy with the bike. I love his voice and just how cold and inaccessible he is. Okay, moving on. We have Tonikaku Kawaii, and that's the story of this guy who gets hit by Truckun, but he defies all laws of anime and he survives through this like beautiful girl, and he's like, I want to date you, I love you, after she saves him, and she's like, okay, but you have to marry me first. And that's kind of like, nani? Logic, please. Anyway, they don't see each other for quite some time actually, but then one day she just shows up and she's like, remember when you said you were going to marry me? Marry me now. That's what she says, and they get married, and you kind of like see how they just go through life and slowly start to get closer and closer, and it's really cute. I heard about this manga actually a couple of months ago. I believed I got like an online arc, and I read the synopsis, and for some reason I thought it was about a girl who came from the moon, so she's like an alien, and she came to marry this guy because she didn't want to get deported back to the moon. I don't know why I thought this when I was reading the synopsis, but I was like, ooh, this is kind of weird. So I just didn't read it. But yeah, I've been watching it. I've now watched about 6 episodes. I'm just waiting for the final episode to drop. I think it did actually a couple of days ago, and just binge everything. I think the only thing that's kind of like a nuance to me, or a nuisance, is that how you say it? Is that this dude, Nasa, the guy who this girl's married to, he's always surprised that they're married. And I'm like, how long is this gag gonna go? She's like, oh, so I'm sleeping at your place. And he's like, huh? What? And she's like, yeah, we're married. And he's like, and I'm like, bruh, do you have amnesia? You literally married this woman a day ago. Please. Anyway, moving on. I also watched I'm Standing on a Million Lives. And I stopped after 5 episodes. To be honest, it was really bland. The characters were very bland. I didn't like the concept of it. There was just nothing to keep me watching. I tried. I watched 5 episodes. It was just really boring. Then I watched Noblesse, and I know people were really, really interested in that. I, in preparation, actually watched the OVA on Crunchyroll, and it was boring. And I watched the first episode and I was like, I'm not particularly amused. And then the whole thing of it being on a high school, and I guess this guy who was like a vampire thing going to high school, I don't know. There was just not much that appealed to me. So I quit after the first episode. I also watched Dragon Quest, The Adventure of Dai. And it's not too bad. I watched the first 2 episodes and it reminded me a bit of like Pokemon with the creatures, and it had also those Dragon Ball Z vibes, of course, because it's the same character designer. Like the person who created Dragon Ball Z did the character designs of this show. And then we had Iwa Kakeru, Sports Climbing Agattas, and it's quite alright. I watched the first 2 episodes and I cringed twice. The first episode, what kind of irked me was you had this sort of, I guess, tsundere character. It's like a sports anime, and it's about this girls' sports club, a climbing club, and so they climb walls. And so this new girl wants to join the team. And for no reason, you have this other girl who's like, you can only join if you beat me. Which is like, why? Also, they're both like first years. So like, why does this first year have to beat you, also a first year, in order to get into the team? And it's just weird. They do it and she almost beats the girl. And it's like, oh, okay, I'm not gonna join the team. And then they're like, yes, but no, you are going to join the team. And then that's kind of like how they teach each other stuff, etc. And you learn cool things about rock climbing, wall climbing stuff, which seems kind of cool. And also, yeah, the other time that I cringed was this girl climber, and she's like, kri kri, kri kri, or something like that. Some kri kri princess. I don't know. It's been a while. I cringed really hard for that, but I mean, like, it doesn't really matter. The reason why I didn't continue was because it didn't really hold my interest. It's kind of like one of those series for me that I might like pick up and binge in one time, but it's not something that I feel like really strongly about that I would like to watch it every single week. There's one cute one that I wanted to quickly talk about, and it's With a Dog and a Cat, Every Day is Fun. There's also like the manga, the original source material is currently being translated to English, so if you're interested in that, you can go check that out. I will leave a link in the description box, but essentially it is what the title says. It's just showing how fun it can be if you have a dog and a cat, and it centers around this woman who has a dog and a cat, and it just has small anecdotes. It's really short, like 3 or 5 minutes every episode, and it's fun. It just kind of like puts a smile on my face. Sometimes there's like 1 or 2 that kind of like made me sad, like when a pet dies, you know, when they're talking about that. But yeah, it's good fun. Would recommend it. Then this one I wanted to talk about it because I didn't believe that this actually existed is One Room. I watched 1 episode and I regret it. I want it erased from my mind because it made me feel really uncomfortable, essentially. It's like the closest you can get to having like cute anime girlfriend. So it's essentially Dora the Explorer, but then with a lot more cringe and anime. So you have these girls who are like, "Senpai, I'm cold. Can I like borrow your jacket?" Bruh. It's really uncomfortable because there's silence, because they expect you to like be talking to this girl, and there's fan service, and it's just yikes. Then the last thing, which I can safely call trash. I'm sorry, this is really trash. It's called dogeza. I tried asking while kowtowing. So it's just this dude begging girls to show him their boobs. And that's it. It's just like, "Can I please see them?" And it's like, "No, I can't. It's weird. Oh, it's weird." And then he's like, "But please." And it goes on for like, I don't know, 5 minutes until she's like, "Okay, here." And that's it. It's, oh my gosh, I didn't watch an entire episode. I just watched the first 2 minutes, and I was like, is this really going on? I just kept on skipping until like in the end, and she like shows her boobs, and it's just weird. Okay, moving on. That's like essentially everything from the anime May 4th 2020 season that I had to say for now. Then I watched 2 anime, or at least the 2 anime I wanted to talk about. So the first one, this came out I think about 2 years ago. It's called Asobi, Asobase, and it's an anime about 3 middle school girls who have created this pastime club where they just do pastime stuff, and it's really quirky, it's really weird, and it's like about middle school girls, but it's targeted towards like seinen, like older men, because of like the humor and stuff like that. It's weird. It's like people consistently screaming, being weird, lasers coming out of people's butts. It's a lot to take in, but I think like it's so characteristic of the show. The opening and the ending song are so characteristic of the show, because it's such a weird mixture of like kawaii like middle school girls and just like weird stuff. So the opening song is them all being like cute music. I can't remember the song, but it's a na 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 na, and you see them in grass fields and being super kawaii. And then the ending song, it just starts like and like grunging and stuff like that. And it's just so like, that's the best way to describe the show, because it's like such a huge contrast, juxtaposition. It's so weird. Also, the voice acting is, especially the Hanako character, because I don't know how this voice actress of this character still has a voice, because the way she screams and just the way her like the things her voice does, I didn't even know was humanly possible. It's just so cool. But yeah, it's a really funny and quirky show, and you can watch whichever episode you'd like. Like, you don't have to watch it in a specific order necessarily, because a lot of these things are kind of like short things. And yeah, also I watched Jojo's part 4. And I have to say, it is my favourite part at the moment. I have started part 5, but I haven't really gotten too much into it. But I do have to say that this art style is actually my favourite one. And I know like the quality of the anime sometimes goes up and down in certain spaces. But just like the really good shots, like I really like this style. And I just think that's something that's really awesome about Araki, that he just isn't scared to experiment and like try new things. And just the uniqueness of Jojo's. I don't want to like talk too much about Jojo's at the moment, because I have a lot to say in general about it, just like how brilliant it is. But I really love Jojo's part 4. It's I like how contained it is. It's in one city and it has these really surrealistic vibes and cool color choices as well. Like, I mean, the sky for the most part is yellow. And it's just like, what? When people like get angry or like change, like the whole color scheme changes as well. It's just, what was it, like daga kotowaru, like that type of stuff. It's just really cool. It's awesome. My favorite character is Rohan. He is so handsome in this part. Also, Josuke is also handsome in this part, and Jotaro, oh my gosh, like in part 3, I was like, who is this guy? I really didn't like how, like the way they looked, like really buff and like, you know, like in part 3. But part 4, damn, Jotaro looks good. Like, he looks really handsome. I really like it. Yeah. Also, like the songs are amazing, and what else can I say about JoJo's? The thing is, like, there's so much has already been said with regards to JoJo's. But yeah, in my opinion, I really liked just how, like I said, how self-contained it is. You have these small villains. It's not like this huge, how do you say it? It doesn't feel like everything is like, oh, if we don't find this guy, the whole world will explode. But it's just, we care about the people in this town. We have family, we have friends here. We want to protect the people we love, and that's what we're going to try and do. We're going to try and find these bad guys and hand it to them, beat them up, rearrange them, cut them into pieces, put them back together, and just teach them a lesson. And yeah, just great to see how all those friendships evolve. And also the soundtrack is amazing. My favorite ones are, I think it's like A Town Protected and Secret Plans. Those are two of the soundtrack songs that I really enjoyed. There are a couple of others, but maybe that's for another time. So that's kind of like all of the anime that I wanted to talk about. Then, moving on to anime news. So now we're in December, which means that winter 2021, that season is coming up. And to be honest, a lot of them are like second seasons or up. And not a lot of them that I'm really following. Of course, like Attack on Titan, but like Re:Zero, I recently bought the first light novel volume of that one. But I've watched a couple of episodes. I'm not too sure if I really am interested in getting into that. The Promised Neverland, I read the first volume. I wasn't too impressed, to be honest. I wasn't a fan of the art style, if I'm being very, very frank. But I know people say that it gets better. I mean, in a sense, like the plot gets better. I'm not really one to shut something down because of the art style necessarily, but I didn't really feel that the story had too much to give. Also, why does that other mother look like she just came out of the minstrel show? She looks so creepy. Yeah. Yeah. Moving on. Yeah. Yeah, Promised Neverland. I might give it a go. I think. Try and pick it up soon. Who knows? I don't really have too much to say about like the things that are really confirmed for that season to air weekly, but there are two things I'm really excited for, and I don't know when these ones are coming out exactly. The first one is Gokushu Fudo. Is it that the name? No, Gokushu Fudo, The Way of the House Husband. I am so excited. Like, when I heard that they're making an anime adaptation, thank you, whatever anime studio you are in Japan. Thank you so much for taking this on. Like, I read The Way of the House Husband several months ago, and I remember, like, I've actually written like a video about like what makes The Way of the House Husband so funny, etc. And I had said previously in a video that what did I say? That this would work really well as an anime, and now we're getting an anime next year, and I'm so excited for it. It's just such a funny show. It's great. I'm super excited for it. Yeah, also, again, I was watching Aisha's live stream, and she's read The Way of the House Husband as well, and she's like, Tatsu's like really hot. He's like the main character, and I was like, yes. I mean, yes, he's a former Yakuza member. Yes, he's creepy. Yes, he could snap me like a twig, but he's still handsome. I'll give him that. Oh gosh. Moving on, the last thing I wanted to talk with regards to upcoming anime is High Rise Invasion. So this is an adaptation of a manga series, and it's about this girl who gets transported to a world in which there are only skyscrapers. What happened? Even my camera's out of focus. Is like, is she human? What is she saying? Skyscrapers. There are only skyscrapers in this world. You can go a couple of floors down, but you can't go all the way down. The only way you can get to the ground floor is falling from is taking the fastest way, which is from the rooftop just straight down. So it's a very scary place, only skyscrapers, but the thing that makes it absolutely terrifying is the fact that there are masked people who are trying to push her and other people like her who have been transported to this world off of these buildings. Ooh, if you are afraid of heights, this is gonna like creep you the heck out. Sure does for me. I read the first volume some time ago, and it's really nice. I really enjoyed it. There were some unnecessary panty shots from time to time, but like regardless of that, it's like a really weird show, and it feels kind of like it's not necessarily like there's like a huge like rich story plot or anything like that. It's just like action and horror, and I think that's pretty cool, you know. I've really enjoyed it so far, so I'm looking forward to reading more of the manga and then seeing when the anime comes out from Netflix. I think as of now there's not really a date, but I'm hoping it's gonna be like at the start of 2021. Then I have one recommendation to give to all of you, and it's actually not anime or manga. It's a Korean television show, and it's called Kingdom. It's a historical horror zombie show, and it's so amazing. I'll just quickly give you a brief summary. It's set, I think, around like 1600s Korea, and there's this plant that has caused people to die and then rise as zombies. So these zombies are dormant during night time, and when it's like daylight, they start like running after people and trying to kill them. So this zombie plague is slowly spreading throughout Korea, and it's also used as a tool in politics with regards to the kingdom of Korea. And so you have this crown prince who is trying to stop this zombie plague with like a bunch of other like political intrigue stuff. I don't want to get too much into it, of course. I don't want to spoil it, but I'll just tell you this. It's so good. The amount of effort that has gone into this series, oh my gosh. Just even watching it only for the costume design, in terms of like the way all of their clothes are so beautiful, so authentic. Of course, you're talking about also royalty and stuff like that, and the clothes, like the way people look, it's so pretty. And then you have also the zombies, which are horrifying. And the things that scares me the most about zombies are like the type of zombies that are fast, that run. These zombies run. Jeepers, like they run so fast, and it makes for like the coolest action scenes. Like they'll be running, they'll be taking people down like rugby style. It's so epic, the action scenes, and like when they fight back with arrows and fires and fire and explosions and stuff like that. It's so epic. So it's on Netflix. I would recommend it. It's so good. I actually don't really watch that much TV, but when it is, it's usually like horror stuff. So if I find anything cool, I've seen a couple of cool like TV shows, like horror stuff and like horror stuff. If I ever get to them, I'll let you know. But try out Kingdom. It's really good. There's also a manhwa of it, but it doesn't compare to the epicness of the show. So we have finally come to the last part of this podcast, and these are manga recommendations which I made for certain people. I asked on my Twitter and on my YouTube if people, like what type of manga people were looking for or what their favorites were, and I would try my best to find like appropriate ones so that you can check out. It's just really fun, and I do have to say, like, I really enjoy it because some of you people like really give me hard tasks, because it's just kind of like a nice way to be constantly pushed to find new manga, new exciting things, and venture into territories you've never been, if that makes any sense. I really enjoy it. So thank you very much for all of your requests. I wasn't able to do everyone just because that would be a whole other video. It would take quite some time to get through that, but nevertheless, I have a couple here. So this one comes from Lara via Twitter. She says, my sister says shoujo, please. Well, I found such a nice one. It's called Omoi Omoware Furi Furare. It's Love Me, Love Me Not in English. I think at the moment there are about 6 volumes available in English, and it's a shoujo manga about 2 girls who are like in high school, and they become friends, but they have like 2 different views on what love actually is, what it's supposed to be, and they fall in love with 2 guys, and it's so cute. This is the same mangaka who created, I forgot the name. I think it's Ao Haru Ride, like Blue Spring Ride, and I read the first volume of that one a couple of months ago, and it was so cute. Like, she has such a way of bringing me back to like high school, secondary school times when like you have like, okay, I didn't have any boyfriends or whatever, but I mean like what you'd wish high school would be for you, like finding like cute guys and like having all these interactions and like not knowing if he likes you or not, and just like crushing on people and just being like a teenager. There's so much nostalgia in her work, like of times that I never really had. But oh my gosh, I read like the first 5 pages and like my face was already like, I was smiling like a whole freaking dog. And there's also some humor in it as well, sprinkled, you know, here and there, which is always appreciated, which is always nice. If you haven't tried that one out, yeah, try it out. Also, Lara, if you have, just let me know on Twitter, and I'll try and find a new one for you and your sister. Okay, so the next one is from Kim Suamulol. They said something like Tokyo Ghoul, definitely fantasy. It doesn't have to be dark though, but I love fantasy. I would say Happiness. Happiness is a series you can get through really quickly because there's not that much dialogue. A lot is being said with just the imagery, and it's a vampire manga series. Yeah. It's really good, though I do have to say there's some nudity in it, but just so you know, but it's pretty dark, especially the last couple of volumes are really hard to get through. But yeah, I'm working on a video with regards to this one and a couple of other manga in which I'll explain more about like the series, etc., and why it's so good. But yeah, I would definitely recommend that. Then, moving on, Jessie says superheroes, preferably one that isn't MHA. I think My Hero Academy, I don't know. Though I do love that series. So this one was really hard because I started to realize that I don't really know that many superhero shows, at least the ones that are not very obvious, like Mob Psycho 100 or something like that. The one that I mentioned at the start of this podcast, Sousou no Frieren, is really good. This isn't, of course, necessarily about like superheroes beating people and stuff like that, but nevertheless it's about heroes, and I just already talked about it. It's a great show. I definitely recommend that. Also, another one, not necessarily heroes, well, not necessarily superheroes, but heroes, definitely. You have Record of Ragnarok, or the Japanese name is Shumatsu no Valkyrie. Yeah, I think that's how you say it. So, Valkyrie of the End. So, essentially, every 1,000 years, all the gods from all over the world come together and they decide if humanity should continue living. The last 1,000 years have passed and they're looking at how we're doing. And as you can guess, we're not doing great. I mean, we're destroying the planet, etc., etc. So they're like, you know what? Let's just like eliminate all human beings. But there's this one Valkyrie who says, hold up. Before you want to eliminate these people, why don't you gods fight against them? Give them a chance. You get 13 of your strongest gods, and I will get 13 of the strongest humans from eons and the thousands of years that we've been in existence, and we will fight against each other. And the person or the group that gets the first 7 wins, they decide. So humans will keep on living or humans will get annihilated. And so it's just epic. Oh my gosh, it's so cool. You have all these like huge buff chads like fighting each other, like yeah, I don't want to spoil everything, but you have like Zeus fighting like this Chinese historical warlord. It's just so epic. It's great. I don't know why I'm whispering, but it's really cool. I would like to talk about this series in more detail, but yeah, just I would say give it a go if you're looking for like heroes, human heroes from history trying to fight and be the champion of the humans to like for their survival, etc. I would recommend this series. Then I had one, the 2 people, Prince of Nonsense, says, I think I'm looking for easy slices of life, just everyday living. I read a lot of fantasy, magic, adventure, so it's nice to go into neutral. Then Kitty's dancing around the Christmas tree, I think. Wholesome content is always welcome, especially with families or friendships. And for this one, I would recommend A Man and His Cat. This is about a man who has recently become a widow and decides to adopt a cat because that is something he and his wife had always wanted to do. And yeah, it's just day to day being with this cat. This cat has also had its own misfortune, being like an exotic cat, but rather ugly, so nobody really likes it, and it stayed in the shelter for a very, very long time, and so it's very afraid to like trust its owner at first, that the owner really loves him. And it's just so wholesome, and it's just 2 people who have had a really tough 2 people, one man and a cat who've had both struggle in life, bad things happen to them, and they found each other now and they're just happy and just trying to live their life. So, it's so wholesome. And the last one, Ina M says, I'm a manga beginner, and so far the only one I loved was My Brother's Husband. And Ruben says, I'm always looking for LGBT recs. So, I have a really good one for this one. It's called Our Dining Table, and it's a one-shot, and it's so wholesome. It's so cute. You have this salaryman who bumps into this guy, and this guy's little brother, and that is kind of like when the relationship between these three people starts to grow. It centers around food and the whole idea of eating together with people, and what a special moment that is, that you can share a meal with someone. And so yeah, it's definitely centered on the wholesomeness of human connection and how important that is. And then you have like a little bit of romance as well towards the end, and yeah, it's great. I thought it was really cute. So those are all of the recommendations. I hope that this was helpful for you, and I hope, like in general, just the podcast, that you enjoyed it. I definitely had lots of fun talking about all of this stuff. Also, if you would like for me to give you a recommendation as well, you can just leave a link on a comment, like just leave a link, just put like a comment in the description box below, and I'll try and pick a couple to do in the next episode. Also, you can follow me on Twitter, and I might like put out a message there again, so you can try there as well. Also, if you would like to support me, I have a Patreon. I'm starting up my book club again, my classics literary book club. In January, we will be reading the memories of post-mortem memories of Bras Cubas by Joaquim Maria Machado de Assis. This is a Brazilian classic, an Afro-Brazilian classic, so I'm very excited to be reading that with everyone. You can also support me by getting me a coffee, perhaps, or just by liking, subscribing, leaving a comment, hitting that bell button or bell thingy. Yes, and that's everything for this podcast. Again, if you are still listening to this, thank you so much. I appreciate it a lot, and I hope you really enjoyed it, and I hope to see you in another video. Take care.